Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of About Abroad, where it's my job to introduce you to people who have built amazing lives for themselves in various foreign corners of the globe. We're talking with expats and thought leaders about moving abroad, remote work, visas, and all the fun and practical knowledge that you need to know to follow in their footsteps. If you've ever dreamed of making a life for yourself overseas, maybe working remotely or embracing long-term travel, retiring or studying abroad, or even just taking a peek inside life beyond your borders, you've landed in the right place. My guest today is Jong. He is a serial entrepreneur from the Netherlands who has made a home for himself in Croatia, and he's also the co-founder of the Digital Nomad Association of Croatia and was one of the key people behind the world-famous Digital Nomad visa that was pushed through the Croatian government in a record like 4 minutes. So he came on the show today, told us all about that process, talked a little bit about Croatia in general as a destination, talked about the Digital Nomad Association itself, and what is happening in one of the hottest locations for digital nomads and expats alike that are looking to move to Europe, settle down in a place with a great climate, great cost of living, awesome accessibility for people who are coming from abroad, and just so many things happening in Croatia. So this was a blast. Jan is world famous in this world, so it was really fun and really nice to get him on the show. I definitely appreciated his time. I hope you guys will enjoy this one as much as I did. Please help me in welcoming Jan to About Abroad. Yeah, so what is this current conference that you guys have going on there in Croatia? I saw a little bit about it post online, but I haven't had a chance to dig into it much.
Yeah, so actually one of my co-founders, Tanja Polagubic, she's one of the co-founders of the Digital Nomad Association, and she is also the founder of a company called Saltwater Nomads. So she is in the business of organizing really amazing conferences and projects throughout Croatia, very much focused on digital nomadism, but also just the future of work in general. I mean, we have seen such tremendous change in the way that we work nowadays, also as a result of COVID, of course, that there's so much content on that subject. So she goes around and she organizes all those amazing conferences. And this time in Istria, in partnership with the local tourist board of Central Istria, they're organizing a digital nomad in residence project. First of all, aside from just exploring that area in Croatia, they're going to be co-creating together with the local tourist board a strategy on how that part of Croatia can become more appealing and attract more digital nomads in the future.
Wow. Yeah, and I guess you as a key part of this really kind of has been leading the way, at least in terms of the digital nomad visa and trying to actually like look at digital nomads as almost like an end user of a product and like bringing them into the country. I mean, doing that kind of like in-depth study is a pretty big testament to how seriously the country's taking it.
Yeah, and this is not the first time actually. About a year ago, there was also a digital nomad in residence project in Dubrovnik, which lasted for a month, which was very successful. It was also an award-winning project. Tanja won an amazing international award with that conference. And we've also done other really great things. We as a Digital Nomad Association, we are supporting those initiatives, of course. We are also actively participating in these things. But we also had, for example, the Zagreb Digital Nomad Week, where for 7 days straight on 7 different locations, we were touching upon all different kind of subjects related to digital nomads and remote work professionals. And yeah, I would like to believe that we are leading the way in becoming, like, let's say, a hotspot in Europe for digital nomads, which is not a complete coincidence. I mean, I think that, first of all, Croatia, it's easy to fall in love with this country. And then, the problem that Croatia has is that it has a very short season. We are welcoming every year like 20 million tourists, even though we have only like 4 million population. So we are depending very much on tourism, but it all comes around the summer. So we wanted to develop a strategy on how we can actually attract, let's say, long-term tourists, if you want to call them that way, throughout the entire year. And that's why we have even initiated some changes in the law, making Croatia actually the second country in Europe to offer a digital nomad visa.
Who was the first country that had an official digital nomad? Was it the D7 in Portugal or another country that actually had one?
No, it was Estonia.
Estonia was the first one.
Course. Yeah, they
Shame
launched
on
it.
me. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when I saw them launching that, very soon after that, actually, I wrote an open letter on LinkedIn to our Prime Minister of Croatia. And I asked him if he would be so kind to consider introducing a visa like that in Croatia. And 44 days after that open letter on LinkedIn, I had a chance to meet with him. And he gave me the full support. And in the months that followed, together with about 6-7 ministries, we have been working very hard to change 2 laws and 2 regulations. And in a country actually that is known for its bureaucracy, we have managed to make those changes in the law in a period of 5 months. And that made us to be actually one of the first countries in the world, so the second in Europe and the 7th in the world, to welcome digital nomads by granting them a 12-month staying permit, during which they will also not have to pay any income tax in order to avoid double taxation, which is obviously very important for Americans because they will always have to pay their taxes in the US. So we would not be a very attractive destination if we would charge them again in Croatia.
Yeah, 100. As an American expat, I can attest to this. Shout out to Greenback Tax, our sponsor, for helping us Americans with those American only problems that we have. Us and Erosera, I think, or Atricia, I think, are the 2 places in the world that have to do that. So, and I mean, honestly, Jan, like that story you just told is, that's how I first heard about you. I mean, that story is kind of world famous now. Like people in this world of digital nomads and expats, the fact that you guys pushed that through so fast, and dodged all that red tape and bureaucracy as best you could, and got that put into place, and then really kind of set the precedent for all this dominoes that continued to fall. I mean, countries started waking up and started creating these, even though a lot of them took years to create now. You guys managed to do it super fast. I would love to know, if you could, I'm sure you can't share all the details, but like, what was the nuts and bolts of that letter that you wrote to the Prime Minister? Like, how did you express the need for this?
Well, I think that it was really helpful, first of all, that Estonia was the first one to launch something like that. And then, of course, while we were all stuck in lockdown as a result of COVID, in a country that for more than 20% of its GDP depends on tourism, I think, it was quite obvious also for the Croatian government that our season was going to be horrible, most likely. It was really devastating. And, if more than 20% of your GDP is from tourism, then it automatically affects all the other industries, even the sales of furniture, so to say, people that welcome tourists in their apartments, if they don't have tourism, then they will not replace their furniture either. And everything is in that way affected by tourism in Croatia. So yeah, we were really looking for alternative ways to attract people to Croatia. And if you cannot come to Croatia for just a couple of days or a couple of weeks, then why not welcome remote workers? All of a sudden, overnight, everybody became a remote worker, pretty much. Why not to welcome those individuals to come to your country for several months or even all the way up to 1 year? And very often, research also from nomadlist.com has shown that those digital nomads, especially the American ones, they have really good income, right? They make on average like more than $80,000 a year, which is, especially for Croatian standards, it's really high. And these are, in my opinion, therefore also very much like citizens that we would like to welcome to temporarily stay in this country, to spend their income here in this local economy. So yeah, that all together clicked. And then I think it was just the right time, the right person with the right message under the right circumstances that made it all happen very fast.
The things that you mentioned there, that cyclical effect, whichever way you get that flywheel turning, when revenue stops coming in from tourism and then people stop buying new goods and then the providers of those goods can't buy other goods, and that negative cyclical effect is pretty apparent. But then the reverse of that, when you inject all these people with, as you say, like higher than average salaries, and they're there for the long term and they're spending more in the local economy, that part of it, I feel like was totally accepted by Croatia, whereas you see some of the other digital nomad visas around the world putting a high emphasis on like obtaining tax dollars from those digital nomads, and the friction that causes, to me, seems very counterproductive to the overall net gain that they could be capturing. So I wonder, what are your thoughts on this? And was that part of the conversation with Croatia?
Absolutely. When we were talking with all those ministries in order to draft all those new laws, the biggest struggles that we were having actually was with our tax office, because they wanted to find ways, of course, how to tax those digital nomads. And we were quite firm in that, quite persistent in that, saying that, Croatia already has among the highest VAT in Europe. We have 25% VAT. So on whatever digital nomads will be spending in this country, the tax office is going to get their fair share, right? There's no need to also tax their their income. And at one point, what I did is I organized actually a meeting with the ex-state secretary of Estonia, and I basically put the ex-state secretary of Estonia on the table with our tax office so they could have an open conversation on that subject, and I was moderating that conversation. And then after that, we went back to the drawing table, and with some more pressure also from our Ministry of Interior towards the Ministry of Finance, we at the end were able to convince them that we should not be charging them any income tax because they will be anyway taxed on their consumption.
Do you have any idea now? Like, are there any rough numbers floating around out there about the cash injection that's created in Croatia?
It's very hard to say, but I'm ready to share some numbers with you. So again, if we look at, for example, nomadlist.com, are you familiar with nomadlist.com?
Yes, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the go-to place for digital nomads. They have this lifetime subscription, and they are participating in surveys, and they're giving feedback about destinations and whatnot. And from that website, we could see that on an average, Croatia is welcoming between 3,000 and 5,000 digital nomads per month. Yeah. So, and then another research has shown, also by nomadlist.com, that an average digital nomad stays about 69 days in one location. So let's round it up to 2 months. So if they're staying for 2 months and we're welcoming between 3,000 and 5,000 of them per month on average, then I think it's fair to say that at any given time, we are hosting between 6,000 and 10,000 digital nomads in the country. Let's stick with 6. Let's be conservative here. If we are with 6,000 digital nomads in the country, and if they would spend on an average, and I'm going to be again on the conservative side here, if they would be spending 1,500 euros per month per digital nomad, we're talking about 9 million euros of consumption per month, which on a yearly basis more than 100 million euros for the Croatian economy. And again, I think that those numbers could easily be double if we are not as conservative as I just was.
Those are insane numbers, and
anywhere between 100 and 200 million euros of fresh new money that enters this country.
Yeah, that's insane. And then you can look at the just the VAT tax there created on just one part of the flywheel that we're talking about, right? Like we're not talking about the cyclical effects and the trickle down effects of that money being injected into the economy, all the subsequent transactions. And I think you're being pretty conservative there on all those numbers. So I mean, we're talking massive numbers.
This is also money that doesn't go to all the, let's say, classical tourist attractions. It's not being spent on hotels only. It's also being spent on hair salons. It's also being spent on going to the movies. It's also being spent on basically whatever Croatian people would be spending their money on. And because those people, they stay long term, or mid to long term. And it's not only the value added tax that the government is getting, the tax office, but also companies therefore, they will make more profit. There's also something so-called profit tax. So there's another source of income for tax office. The way I look at it, it's a 100 or 200 million euros of additional influx of money into this country that we probably wouldn't have had if we were not among the first countries to welcome digital nomads, and if we wouldn't be so good at promoting ourselves internationally as a place to go for digital nomads.
Yeah, one thing I'm curious about is what was your motivation? I mean, you played a central role in this. And as far as I know, you're not directly involved in the government there. It's not like this was your job to create. You stepped outside your day to day to do this. But correct me where I'm wrong, and maybe just shed a little bit of light on that because I'm genuinely curious.
Yeah. So there's actually only one reason why I wanted to be involved with this and why I wanted to do this so badly, and that's because I really think it's good for this country. And I'm a father of 4 children. My wife is Croatian, so my kids are half Croatian, half Dutch. So we will always have a connection with this country. We plan our future to be in this country. So for me, it's important that this country starts performing better economically and that it offers more opportunities, not just for today's generation, but also for future generations. And I think that in a country where, when I moved here 15 years ago, the population was about 4.5 million. Today, we are with 3.88 million left. So we have seen almost 600,000 people leave Croatia. These are obviously not old and retired people that have left this country. country. These are mostly young, smart individuals that have left to countries like the Netherlands, like Ireland, like Germany, like the United States, and they're moving there in order to find opportunities. And that's a very sad thing, actually, for me to see that, because I'm actually a Dutch guy that moved to Croatia, and I found my opportunities and my happiness in this country. And I just want to be an example where, first of all, I can show that it is possible to build a great life, and I call it the Croatian dream. I'm living the Croatian dream in Croatia. I always wanted to, as a boy, move to America and live the American dream, but I moved to Croatia, now I'm living the Croatian dream. And I want to help Croatia progress, and I want the future of Croatia to be better for my kids, but also for all the other kids in this country. And I think that by welcoming young and smart digital nomads or remote work professionals to this country, that we can not only have an economic benefit from that, but we can perhaps also reverse the brain drain that we are experiencing here in this country.
I was going to use that exact terminology right now and say that brain drain, I think, is one of the hidden shadow sides of the industrial economy that we've become so reliant on. Everybody moving to the economic centers of wealth and knowledge. And then so we see these other areas, beautiful areas in every other regard, but the younger generations leave there and go to these mega metropolises and very few, the few and mighty countries around the world. So the rich get richer in that way. And I think that's one of the awesome aspects of the whole remote work revolution and the movement towards more location independence is that people can choose where they want to go and go back home or move to places that offer a better quality of life for them, for their families, the injection they put into the economy. You see it on a big scale. In this case, when we're talking about the digital nomad visa in Croatia, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. I've talked to people who have they moved back to their little village on an island because they could leave London and, they could go be close to their family on a little island in Greece, for example. And so, I mean, it's on a microscopic scale and a macro scale. It's incredible.
I think that this remote work revolution that we are experiencing right now, it's probably one of the biggest opportunities for countries like Croatia, for the Mediterranean. You would see in the past, or still, perhaps, you would see people move to countries like the United States or like Ireland in order to find opportunities. And now what you see actually is that those people from those countries, they're moving to countries like Croatia to find lifestyle again. And they're just bringing their job with them, and it's perfect. We have talented people all over the world. Even though up until COVID, actually, job opportunities were not all around the world. And nowadays, with the remote work revolution, that's the most beautiful thing of everything, I think, is that the job opportunities are more equally spread around the world now.
Yeah, I love this quote. I can't remember who I heard it from first. I want to say Nacho Rodriguez from the Canary Islands, but opportunity is talent is evenly distributed, but opportunity is not. And remote work fights directly against that. And we see that here. That's really exciting. And I'm glad you brought up the point about the fact that you're actually not Croatian, which I think probably a lot of people who follow your work, or maybe followed from a distance or just heard of you, I mean, they just probably naturally assume someone that's so central to this movement in Croatia that they're probably born and raised there. That's why they're so passionate about it. But you've come from a foreign country, from the Netherlands, made your life there. What is it? You obviously have a fondness for the country aside from the fact that your wife is Croatian. I mean, what drew you to Croatia and what is it that you love about it so much now?
Yeah. So, I mean, I was rather young when I moved from the Netherlands to Croatia. I was 22. And when I moved here, I mean, first of all, I just fell in love with the beauty of this country. The nature, the islands, the sea, the lifestyle, the food, the quality of food, the amazing wines. This entire Mediterranean lifestyle it has always been so attractive to me. And, we in the Netherlands, we always dream of going on a holiday and spending like 1 or 2 weeks in a country like that, and then we have to go back to our rainy country and work very hard. And when I was given the opportunity actually during my last year of university, to write my final thesis from Croatia, during that year, I started my first business. And aside from the fact that this country is beautiful and that it offers a really great lifestyle, in my humble opinion, it also offers really a lot of great business opportunities, because a lot of the things that you see, for example, that have worked out really well in the Netherlands, or businesses that are running great great in the Netherlands. Those kind of things are sometimes not even being done in Croatia yet. And for me, having the ability that with one eye I can see what works in the Netherlands, and with the other eye I can see what is lacking or missing in Croatia, and then to be the bridge between that and to start great businesses in Croatia and to solve really major problems here, that's something that I have really a great passion for. And, I'm able therefore to build a really great life in this country. I built great businesses. The first company that I started, it's called M Plus Group. I started it in 2007. I sold it in 2016. I employed more than 400 people at that time. And this is a company specialized in contact center services. So it's obviously a business where you need a lot of people. But that company today is listed on the Zagreb Stock Exchange and employs more than 12,000 people after a whole series of M&A. And that company, back in 2007, is the company where I carried the first computer inside. So it just shows what kind of an opportunity you have in this country, going from one computer in 2007 until 12,000 people, which are, by the way, mostly working remotely these days, in 2022. Try do that in the Netherlands. It's perhaps not as easy. I mean, it was not easy in Croatia either, but it's definitely possible to do that. And now, not that I want to go very deep on this subject, but the Netherlands, as you might know, is also one of the largest exporters of food in the world. We are the second largest exporter of food in the world. And the way that we do that is we build those greenhouses where we are growing vegetables. And in the Netherlands, we have nearly 10,000 hectares of greenhouses.
What?
Of those nearly 10,000. Yeah, well, I know because I was born and raised there. Yeah, and then and if you look at Croatia, we have about 65, 70 hectares of high-tech greenhouses. And for example, in the winter in Croatia, you cannot find Croatian produce. You cannot find tomatoes from Croatia or cucumbers from Croatia. It's all being imported from Spain or from the Netherlands. While in the past, Croatia used to feed entire Yugoslavia, And now, today, we are an importing nation. Now, with my Dutch roots, knowing what works in the Netherlands, knowing having access to money, but also to experience and to the technology from the Netherlands, now my next dream is that I bring more of that technology to Croatia. And my ultimate goal is that we, first of all, become less dependent on importing food, and ultimately that I can help turn Croatia back into a food exporting nation again. So, these are things that, I wouldn't even start those kind of things in the Netherlands, but it's so cool to do that in Croatia.
Man, I swear, you guys, the Dutch are some of the most driven in like from an ingenuity standpoint. You guys see a barrier and you go right over it. I've been living in Valencia the last 5 years, Valencia, Spain, and there's we have a huge Dutch population there. Someone told me there's 25 flights per day between the Netherlands and Valencia, and a lot of my close friends are from the Netherlands there. And anyway, I happened to just have been in Amsterdam just recently and went on a tour where they were talking about the ingenuity of early on and the travels around the world. And for this relatively small country, you guys take on some pretty massive projects. And I find it hilarious because I joke with my Dutch friends. They're like, you guys don't see a problem. You see a problem and you just you're going to get right past it and solve it. And so, that's, you're seeing that the reverse of the brain drain here happening in Croatia.
Yeah, but that is what entrepreneurship is all about, right? I mean, entrepreneurship is nothing more, nothing less than solving other people's problems and charging money for that. And if you solve very big problems or a lot of problems, then obviously you can turn it into a very big business.
Yeah, and you've managed to do that a couple times now, correct? Am I correct? It's several.
Sometimes bigger than other times. So with the first company, I made a very nice exit in 2016, then employing more than 400 people at that time. Then after that, I started a company called Web Power Adria, where, again, another example. Here in this region, everybody was sending newsletters by using softwares like MailChimp. I don't know if you're familiar with MailChimp, but that's the market leader in the
I use
world.
it for my About Abroad newsletter. Actually,
yeah, we have to talk about that.
Help me. I'm not totally thrilled with the with what we're getting here.
I got you covered there. But for example, in the Netherlands, you have at least 10 companies that are all having their local software for sending newsletters, and each of those companies, they're employing, let's say, anywhere between 20 and 50 people. These are not huge businesses, but they are employing between 20 and 50 people. So we can fairly say that in that industry, We employ in the Netherlands probably like 500 people easily. And in Croatia, a company like that doesn't exist. So everybody in this region, we are just using MailChimp or Campaign Monitor or any of those US-based or Australian-based software as a service for sending newsletter. So what I did in 2016, right after I sold my call center, I started a company called Web Power Adria, and we started offering a product like that, but locally with local support, obviously hosted within the European Union, so GDPR compliant. We are doing all the setup. We are helping companies, not just by offering a software, but we can also help them to get more out of their email marketing activities. And now we are a local market leader serving nearly 150 companies across the region, having a perfect business. It's very scalable. It's very profitable. And being in a position like that, we are also one of the first companies in the region to introduce a 4-day work week for a full-time salary. So these are really cool and nice things to do. Something, that hasn't been done in Croatia yet and has already been done and very successfully been done in the country where I was born and raised, in the Netherlands.
Yeah, you're just importing these awesome ideas and injecting them into the local economy. Just some are more tangible in terms of dollars and cents, and others are more figurative in that way. The 4-day work week, I don't know. I'm assuming you agree. I think it's the future. I think we're hopefully going to adopt that as more of the status quo in the not too far off future.
We started with this in September 2021, so a bit more than a year ago. And I can say that we will never go back again to 5 days. This is probably the best decision we have ever made in our company, to start working less.
Why do you say that?
Because it makes our people so much more happy. Productivity is the same. And at the same time, it gives me really a very big competitive edge compared to other companies that are hunting for my talent. In the past, I always had to compete against either pharmaceutical companies or unicorns that were looking to employ my team members. And, they can always offer more money because they simply have more money than I have. So I didn't want to compete with those companies in terms of like just spraying more money on spending more money on salaries. So I wanted to give something to my team for which I believe that my competitors, I'm not talking about direct competitors because they're working in the same industry, but competitors for talent, I wanted to give my people something for which I believe that my competitors wouldn't be prepared or willing to give that. And that is not more money, but more free time. And I think that that's more valuable than money. And we are working 100% remote. We closed the office for more than a year, almost 2 years. We had an office. Everybody of the employees had a key to come to the office. Nobody came to the office. So after 2 years, I decided not to prolong the rent anymore. Now we are a 100% remote company. And then what you see now is that, for example, if one of those pharmaceutical companies, if they want to hire my team members, then they could maybe offer more money, but then they have to make a decision. Am I going to work 5 days a week from the office for a little bit more money, or am I going to work 4 days a week from home? Well, then it becomes a decision about lifestyle. And I think that we are positioning ourselves very well with Web Power. It has given us also a lot of media attention. Everybody knows about our company, even though we're very small. And, with happy employees, you get happy clients at the end of the day. So, yeah, like I said, best decision ever.
I mean, it's awesome to hear that from the perspective of the CEO, someone who's from the very top looking down, because I think it's easy for a lot of the people from the, on the ground floor to say, yeah, of course I want a 4-day work week. But when you're running the business, you have to look at the dollars and cents of it. You have to think about the productivity and the effect, the cyclical or the trickle down effects, I guess, a better way to put it, of making this decision. And I totally agree with everything you're saying. That I've done some pretty extensive research on this to look at other companies that are doing it. And I think the writing's on the wall. I mean, like you said, productivity maintains, or at worst might drop off a point or two. And in most cases it increases. Happiness and engagement go up, employee retention through the roof. So it seems like an awesome way to build a moat around your company and keep people from wanting to leave. We'll be right back to the show after a quick break for a note from our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by my good friends over at Greenback Tax. As an American citizen, I'm from one of only 2 countries in the entire world that requires I pay taxes on my global income, regardless of which country I'm actually living in. So when I started my expat journey back in 2015, I knew my tax situation was about to get complicated. Fortunately, I discovered Greenback, and I've never looked back. Greenback is 100% focused on helping U.S. expats with their tax situation, and to date, they've filed almost 50,000 returns for nearly 15,000 happy customers from more than 200 200 different countries. After 7 years working together, I can say with confidence that they make one of the most painful parts of life abroad an absolute breeze with their automated systems, friendly advisors, and expertise in the very specific niche of U.S. expat taxes. Also, for those of you who may have fallen behind on your taxes and or you're trying to get ahead of tax season in 2023, Greenback has your back here as well. They can assist with late filings to ensure you don't encounter any problems with the IRS and to make sure you start 2023 off right. Tax season is on the horizon. Learn more about Greenback today by going to greenbacktaxservices.com via the link in the show notes. Hey guys, so many of you write in asking how to support the show best. And if you are listening and made it this far into the episode, then I'm going to presume that perhaps you're one of those people that wants to help. So if that's the case, the best thing you could do right now would be to open up the app that you're currently using to listen to this episode. Go to the little arrow thing that allows you to share, select it and share it to one of your social media networks. That would be a huge, huge help. You can feel free to tag me at DC Warrington and I'll slap you a virtual high five from wherever I am in the world. Thank you so much for the support. We really appreciate it. And I hope you enjoy listening to the rest of this episode. Time is so valuable. And I think the generation behind me values that even more than you and I do. And so I think it's something that companies have to adapt to.
No, but just imagine, you have a bunch of people applying for a job and you have interviews with them and you discuss all the details about the job and whatnot. And then at the end you say, oh, by the way, we work 4 days a week. And it's like, what? It's like, people are like really happily surprised, It's like almost. So the way that we do it actually is because we have to operate 5 days a week to service our clients. So we cannot be all free on Friday. So what we do is we actually divide our team in 3 groups. One team has a day off on Monday, the other team has a day off on Wednesdays, and the other team has a day off on Friday. And we keep it like that for 1 month. And then the next month we rotate. So then the team that was free on Monday, the month after they're free on Wednesday. And the month after that, they're free on Friday. So in that way, it's the most fair for everybody. Everybody gets to experience a day off on either Monday, Wednesday, or Fridays in a quarter time period, in 3-month time period.
Absolutely. That's one of the big question marks I think I have is like if we were to implement that at Doist, how we would do that free day. And I think the way you've designed it is perfect. That's a first for me. I haven't heard that, but I like that philosophy.
It has not even been designed by me. When we suggested to the team that we're going to be working 4 days a week, they were asking like, okay, how are we going to do this? And then I asked them, okay, how do you want to do it? And then they came up with the suggestion, the one that I just presented. Actually, they came up with the suggestion to split up the team in 5 groups. And over time, we have actually then perfected it into Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, because that also means that every Tuesday and every Thursday, we, if needed, can have group meetings with all the employees included, because those are the 2 days that we are all working.
That's perfect. Yeah, that works out. What's your free day? Do you pick it or is it assigned to you?
For me, it's a little different because I'm not involved with just one company. I have several things going on. I definitely can't say that while in the past I was working really hard, like 80 hours a week, today I can say that my family is my top priority and that I basically design my work around my family. So I don't work that many hours anymore. And for me, it's really more about, whenever I do anything, for me, it's important that I have an impact with what I do. It's not about just being stupid and playing with Excel tables whole day long. I did that, but that's not what I want to spend my time on anymore. I just really want to be more strategically involved as an owner or as an initiator of things. And altogether, that might be 20, 30, 40 hours a week, but combined for different projects and different businesses.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're there in this beautiful country, man. You got to be able to enjoy that with your family.
Exactly. Yes, that's right.
Well, that's very cool. I did not know that, and I'm excited. I'm always excited to see more companies pushing that forward and leaders talking about and sharing the positive experience. So. I wanted to come back to
about it.
I saw it actually on your LinkedIn, and I'm glad you brought it up again here today because I'm not sure I would have thought about it in the context of our conversation. But I'm just totally fascinated by it and love it. I was hoping I meant to get to this earlier, you because we kind of kicked off with this part of the discussion, but I'm very curious to hear about these in residence programs that you guys are that the Digital Nomad Association in Croatia is helping to facilitate or participating in, and like kind of getting inside what they're finding? Like I'd just be curious to know, you're bringing digital nomads in there, these areas within Croatia are trying to figure out what digital nomads want. What are they learning from these digital nomads, and what are those areas doing with that knowledge?
Yeah, well, it's too early to make any conclusions on the project that is going on as of today in Istria.
Yeah.
Hopefully in a week from now, because I mean, in a week from now, we've had several workshops with the digital nomads and the local tourist board. So hopefully they will come up with really cool things. But for instance, when they did it last year in Dubrovnik, I don't know if you've ever visited Dubrovnik, but Dubrovnik is a destination that in general has a problem, which is that a lot of people, they go there only for either a couple of hours if they're on a cruise ship, or maybe for a day. Maybe they would spend there 2 or 3 days, as a matter of saying. But it's all like very, very short stay tourism. And what Dubrovnik wanted to do is they wanted to obviously become a more attractive destination for long stay tourism. And that's why they asked for help from the digital nomads. And what it comes down to is that when the digital nomads, when they spent an entire month in Dubrovnik, their conclusion was that being in Dubrovnik for 1 month is not long enough. You can spend so much more time in Dubrovnik. But what Dubrovnik as a city should do is they should not just promote the old town that you see on photos and images all around the world, everywhere. No, don't just promote the old town, but promote everything else that you can do around Dubrovnik in that area. And in that way, I mean, there's so much content, there's so much to do that like they said, 1 month is not enough in Dubrovnik. And now what they're doing is the city has also made co-working spaces available. I think they opened 2 or 3 co-working spaces. One issue is also very often in Dubrovnik is the accommodation, pricing of accommodation. So they're also still looking into what they can do there to get more and more people on board to rent for lower fees, but for a longer term. And they have, I think they've also had ideas on introducing maybe they've already done it, a Dubrovnik long stay, like a card where you can enjoy all kinds of discounts and benefits for buying the card if you stay in Dubrovnik for more than, I think, 2 weeks, something like that. So yeah, they were one of the first first cities that obviously really felt the impact also when we were all in lockdown. I mean, Croatia depends for more than 20% on tourism. I think that Dubrovnik depends for more than 35% on tourism. It's like that. Yeah, it's huge. So yeah, they wanted to do something about it. They wanted to come up with strategies on how to attract people year round in Dubrovnik. And yeah, the remote work professionals, they would be part of a solution. And that's why they want to come up with ideas on how to keep them in Dubrovnik.
Funny you mentioned Dubrovnik in particular. So I'm actually looking at coming to spend like a few months in Croatia in this coming year in 2023. And I was looking at places to, just considering the places, and you start with the ones that you do a little bit of research. I mean, Croatia's no secret to most of us in this world, but I kind of had some preconceived conceptions. And one of those was that, I probably shouldn't even consider Dubrovnik because that's just going to be super touristy, and I definitely want to go see it and spend a couple days there, but most likely it's not going to be my home base for 3, 4, 5 months. And so anyway, I find that really interesting because it's cool to hear that these cities are, there's a lot of revenue in the short-term tourist, but I love that they're investing in building the infrastructure for those of us that want to come and spend some quote unquote real time there. So it's nice to hear that they're taking that seriously. I guess I think maybe we have a tendency to think that they don't really care. It's just however we get the money, we get the money. But it's nice to hear that they're adapting.
They care very much. You said there's a lot of money in the short-term tourism, but actually it's not. You have thousands of people that come on a cruise ship. They just swamp your entire city, and all they buy is one ice cream. And then they go back to their cruise ship, but the whole city was full with people. And this makes actually that Dubrovnik is really not a nice place to live for the locals. And it's all nice that you can make a living off of tourism, but if that comes on the expense of the local people, that they really have to suffer on the quality of life in their own city, then it becomes a problem. So they really wanted to do something with that.
Yeah, and I think there's another element to this too when we're talking about the locals is that the types of people, at least in today's version of this whole digital nomad remote work world, the types of people that are going to come and spend several months there they want to be there for a reason beyond just snapping pictures in front of cool sites and having that ice cream. I mean, they want to bake themselves into the local culture a little bit. They want to maybe learn the language. They're going to go to language learning schools, or they're going to go to the gyms there. Or they're going to get involved with small businesses, and maybe even I've seen a lot of them getting involved with community service and things like this. Perhaps someone like yourself ended up starting businesses there because they fall in love with the place. And so I think there's a lot to be said for that. It's a different type of tourist that I think can pay dividends to the local community in a lot of different ways.
I couldn't agree more.
Okay, so Dubrovnik, everyone knows, right? But let's talk a little more geography here, I guess. You've thrown around a few names of places around the country, and so let's just pretend that I'm a novice because I kind of am. But where are some of the other hot spots? Where should someone who's listening to this, they're going, Croatia sounds cool. I like the lifestyle you've built. Where do you recommend people go and really try to give this a shot? I think one of the other things, I'll throw some context around this, is I didn't realize until not that long ago, talking 4, 5, 6 years ago or something, the diversity in Croatia. I thought about it. I think I thought of just the islands, and there's a lot more diversity there than I think people realize. So perhaps we can just shed some light there.
Yeah. So when I moved to Croatia 16 years ago, I moved to Split. And Split is the second largest city in Croatia. So after the capital, Zagreb. Split is a city of about 200,000 people. And I can definitely say that it's probably the most popular city among digital nomads in Croatia. Also because it has great accessibility to all the islands. The climate is amazing. And it's a bit bigger city. It's a more vibrant city. So there's a lot of expats and digital nomads that are going to Split. Then of course Zagreb as the capital, especially also in the winter with the Christmas market, is a very interesting place to be. In Split, perhaps in the winter there's not so much to do, but on the other hand, in Zagreb there's really a lot of things that you can do in the winter time. I mean, I've known several, or I know several digital nomads that they would spend April, May, June, they would be in Split. Then during the summer months, July and August, they try to avoid those kind of places. And then maybe in September, October, they would also want to be in Split. But then comes November, December, January, they want to be, for example, more in the continental part or in Zagreb area. And other regions that are really beautiful are, for example, then Istria, which is like Croatia's Tuscany, as a matter of saying. It's really amazing. If you enjoy great food, great olive oil, great wine, if you enjoy that kind of lifestyle, it's very quiet there. You can definitely find small towns where there's not a lot of action, but a lot of peace. Then that's a really great place to be. Slavonia, that's the northeastern part of Croatia, with Osijek. Osijek being a bit of an IT hub in Croatia, where there's a lot of IT startups and great companies that are established over there. Then you have the central part of Croatia, which is very hilly with mountains and rough terrain and beautiful forests and waterfalls like Plitvice. The waterfalls area is a beautiful natural park. You should go there for sure. Yeah, I mean, when the digital nomad said it's not enough to stay for 1 month in Dubrovnik, well, I can tell you, for many people, it's not enough to stay in Croatia for 1 year. Unfortunately, after 1 year, you cannot renew your digital nomad permit yet. We've been working really hard on getting that in place so that people can actually renew the digital nomad permit. But unfortunately, it's not a priority right now for the Croatian government to do that. We are entering Schengen on the 1st of January, and we are adapting the euro as our national currency as of January 1st as well. So these are two major things that are happening in this country right now. That has priority, obviously, over many other things.
Do you expect that to actually happen? Like, I've heard people talking about that, but saying that it's quote unquote happening January 1st, but expectations being that it is like, okay, it's for sure moving forward.
Yeah, I think on the 15th of December already. So that's for us now that we are recording it. It's in 1 week from now. I think that when you pay with the local currency, which is kuna today, they should already return you back euros. So this is really happening.
Yeah. And I think the Schengen thing, I feel like is it just feels like like this giant step forward, like this step that's going to happen, but it's like, how will it really, like all of a sudden there's just not going to be border control or there, I'm just curious to see how it's going to play out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for you, for example, as an American citizen, you are obviously a third country national for Croatia, and you could apply for a digital nomad permit, for which you can, by the way, find all the information at digitalnomads.hr if you want to know anything more about it. But if you would apply and get accepted for that, then you can stay basically one entire year in a Schengen country. You can travel all around if you want. Yeah.
It's exciting for a lot of us. I happen to have like European residency now, so I'm fortunately over the hurdle of having to think about these things too much. But I mean, most of my listeners that come from countries like the U.S. and others that are, I mean, this is probably the number one question I get asked about: how do I get residency, or how do I get more than my 90 days in a Schengen country? And so this is one of those pathways in.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I should also mention, you already know this, but we have a mutual friend, Jess Romano, who was a previous guest here on the show. She was the third person, I think, to get the Croatian digital nomad visa, and I'm going to link to that one in the show notes of this one. For anybody that wants to really get into the mechanics of that, you can go off and do your own research, or you can listen to that episode. She goes through the bullet points of how she went through the process and everything. I'm not asking Jan about that purposefully, not omitting this, but I think it's important that we mention that there's a lot of information on this, and it's a super straightforward process. I mean, you guys nailed it in terms of reducing friction.
Well, I think that there's still space to improve, but some things are just not easy, especially for U.S. citizens when you have to have your background check and your fingerprints and FBI and whatnot. It's a time-consuming process for U.S. citizens. But listen, if you really want it, there is a very clear path on how you can get your digital nomad permit. You just have to follow all the steps, and then if you meet all the requirements, which is obviously not having a criminal background, having sufficient income, having income from outside of Croatia, having your health insurance covered, then you will be accepted.
What's the friction with not being able to renew it? I mean, why doesn't the government want to jump on that in your opinion, from your perception?
I don't know. I mean, we are making such strong efforts to get digital nomads to come here, and then after 1 year we're sending them away. It's really a pity. It's a missed opportunity, if you ask me. And if it was up to me, I would have already made some additional changes to the law that would allow digital nomads to simply renew it. However, there is a bit of a loophole. There is a possibility. I spoke with one also U.S. citizen. There's two different permits. So you have the digital nomad permit, and then you also have a permit which you can get by prepaying your rent 12 months ahead. Okay. And what she did, she jumps from one to another. So she goes on a digital nomad permit, and when that one expires, she applies for the other permit where she prepays her rent for 12 months. When that one expires, she right away applies again for the digital nomad permit, and in that way she can continue to stay in the country.
Genius.
But, don't tell this to anybody, but there is a possibility.
It's just me and you talking. Your secret is
keep this between us. Keep this between us. I just hope that nobody from the Croatian government is going to listen to this. That's the only concern I have.
We get creative out there, man. I mean, on these mean streets of the nomad world, you figure it out, and you gotta make it happen somehow. So.
Exactly. And then, last but not least, what you can always do is you can get married to a Croat. So either a Croatian woman or a Croatian man.
Follow the Jan plan.
Yes, exactly. That's what I did.
That's always a safe bet.
I mean, I have a Dutch passport, so for me it was easy anyway to stay in Croatia. It's European Union after all. So,
yeah, of course. My wife and I used to joke with each other. She told me one time when we were fighting the visa battle, trying to get our first long-term visa in Europe, and she said, I should have just married a European. And we always joke about that. Maybe we should trade each other in. That would have been easier than all of this.
Yeah. All right.
Well, yeah, and this has been so great. I mean, I could probably ask you a million other questions, but this has really been fun for me, and I learned a lot. I'm sure the listeners did as well. So Thank you for the time and effort and all that you're doing, setting the example and watching, now I think there's like 60 something digital nomad visas out there. So very cool to watch what's happening. And this was a lot of fun today. Before we sign off, are there any links or places you would leave for people if they want to follow along or learn more about you or your companies, the Digital Nomad Association, all of the above? We'll place them in the show notes as well.
Well, I mean, I think if you want to know more about the digital nomad permit itself, then you just visit digitalnomads.hr. That's the government website. From there, you also have a link to the website of the Ministry of Interior with all the requirements that you need to meet in order to get your digital nomad permit. We also have a website as our association, so the Digital Nomad Association Croatia. It's dnacroatia.com. So for any information about us, then you can go visit that website. That's it.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, I'll let you go. Thank you so much. And when I'm in Croatia in 2023, I will ping you to say hello.
Yeah. Let me know. Perfect. Thank you so much, Chase. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for tuning in today from wherever you are in the world. Once again, I'm Chase, and this has been another episode of About Abroad. For those of you wondering how you can best support the show, I have made it super simple for you. Just go over to the show notes of the episode that you just finished listening to and click on one of the two following links. aboutabroad.com/newsletter to get our monthly newsletter, no spam, guaranteed, or ratethispodcast.com/aboutabroad, where you can quickly and easily leave a review for the show. It's not just important to me, it also helps more wanderers just like you find us. Finally, don't forget to subscribe on your podcast platform of choice, and we will see you again next week. Thanks again. Hasta luego, amigos.